Hi, this is Alex Pault with Open Systems Media and Embedded Computing Design, and I'm here at the Things Conference with Kevin Bromber. He's with myDevices. Now, Kevin, this show is so full of stuff. First off, I'm really glad to have you here. You did a keynote, and you've been a busy guy here. I'm glad you had a chance.
Thank you.
To sit with us. Well, because this is a beautiful, growing space, and one of the first things I wanted to ask is, when did you get involved in LoRa?
So I got involved in LoRa in the end of 2015 when we were building software to try and make Internet of Things happen. And when we were looking around at different protocols and devices, it became clear that LoRa was like the one that we should be choosing.
Now, one of the things I've been talking a lot about is how the design philosophy, at least in this space, this is the beginning of the transition from design being more of a hardware agnostic situation. It's more about the protocols, it's more about the software, but you still need the hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, okay, so that's the great opportunity, but that's also the tricky thing with IoT. So, you're combining software and hardware. And it's hard for people to understand the complexities of doing that, because when you just have software, and when you say just have software, it's hard enough to launch a product where people are going to log on, they're going to go, and they're going to do like a SaaS offering, right? But when you throw in hardware, you've actually got to ship it, you've got to install it, you've got to worry about it living for a long time, and what about reverse logistics and things failing? So it creates a whole nother level of complexity.
Well, and you've come up with a very interesting way to address some of that issue with these very interesting IoT in a box packages.
Yeah, thanks. So we feel that we have. One of the first things that I wanted to do when we created the company was I said to myself, I don't want to be building hardware. I'm not a hardware guy. I don't know how to build hardware. There's thousands of companies around the world that know how to do this way better than I do. I also felt that over time, hardware was going to continue to get better. So where we put a lot of effort and a lot of money and development was on making our system completely hardware agnostic, making it so that a hardware developer could actually submit their devices into our platform, and then our software would be able to understand how they talk. Because a piece of hardware that's developed by one manufacturer doesn't speak the same way as another hardware manufacturers. So we've created almost, it's a translation layer where they can all talk to each other.
Very nice. So explain it to us a little bit here. What exactly is in this box, and what does it exactly do for you?
Okay, so first of all, the box is more of a marketing concept. As a human being, when you see this box, you understand that it's a complete solution that's in here. So your mind says, check, I've got everything that's in here. And it does have everything. It's got a gateway that's in here, it's got the sensors in here, and it is specifically set to solve this particular problem, which is temperature monitoring. So this box is to solve temperature monitoring for commercial refrigeration. So let's say hospitals, food services, of course, and they by law have to measure the temperature in the refrigerators. They're driven by compliance, and they're doing it with human beings and pieces of paper today, which is insane. So what we do is we automate that process.
Very nice. Now, so Kevin, this is obviously not a single solution. You probably have boxes for a lot of different spaces. Can you list some of the spaces you have turnkey box solutions for?
Yeah, so because we are hardware agnostic, if you look at our catalog of devices, there's over 200 devices that can be scanned in with the QR code and mixed and matched. So the reality is we have an endless number, but you have facility management, you've got tank monitoring, you've got leak detection, you've got pipe temperature monitoring, agriculture. So literally, you're only constrained by the capability of the devices that you add, and right now we have a huge ecosystem of devices that can be mixed and matched.
Very nice. So where do you see this going? Do you see your approach being more adopted, or you just see your approach as one of the ways to address this? How do you see myDevices migrating forward?
So I envision myDevices to be very similar to cloud platforms today. So like Amazon Web Services and Azure and GCP, Google Cloud. In the old days, you would set up your own servers. You'd get your own hardware and you'd do all your stuff, right? Well, then what they started to do was they rented out those servers to you. And you realize, wow, it just doesn't make sense for me to do it anymore. They're going to do it better, and it's going to be cheap enough, I'll just use theirs. And that took off. Well, we feel that we've built a really great IoT software platform. And we feel that system integrators who want to sell IoT solutions to their businesses won't build their own platform. They'll use ours, and they'll mix and match different devices to solve problems, and they'll just rent or license the technology just like they would a cloud platform.
Well, and that's the other side of the coin is, so much of the value is migrating to the software, to the OS, to the wireless protocols, to the actual service being provided. One of the examples I love using is the satellites. We've got companies with satellites in space. 10 years ago, you couldn't put satellites in space for a shoestring budget, and now it's enabling a lot.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. We really are at the beginning of this. I think that what we're doing is the right approach. I think that is where it's going to be headed. Where it becomes a little fuzzy is things like machine learning, AI, because you're going to layer that stuff on. And then it gets really interesting because this particular use case that we just talked about, all we're really doing is we're just automating a human process that's very expensive and we're making it easier. But what happens when you can enhance that with machine learning, for example, when you can take these readings and you can predict when the refrigerators will go out before the problem, with all you need is just knowing the readings over time, and a machine is smart enough to know you're going to have a problem, and then we kick out a message to the service center to have somebody come and fix the problem. So that's the future, and it's coming very fast. It's cool.
So not only functionality, but reliability and serviceability.
That's right, and predictability, because right now we live in a break-fix environment. Things break, you fix it. And that costs the human race a lot of time and a lot of money. If you can predict things before they break, then you save a tremendous amount of heartache, time, money, and business.
Well, one of the favorite questions I like asking here, Kevin, because there are so many applications, what are some of the more interesting, funkier applications that you've come across in your endeavors here?
The funny thing is, I've come across so many funky ones that I'm not even surprised anymore. I'm more fascinated, I guess. Like, I got to say, the one that's very fascinating to me, but it makes sense. It's like, it's always funny because when you see the device first, everybody's like, oh, what's that for? And then when you explain it, everybody goes, oh, okay. So for example, there's live animal trapping. There's nuisances like raccoons and stuff that come around large facilities, and they trap them in cages so they can take them and move them to somewhere else.
Catch and release.
Yeah. Catch and release. And so one of the issues that's today is that when those animals get caught, human beings have to go and check those traps on a regular basis because it's inhumane to leave
them die
the animals in there. Exactly. But it's very expensive to do that, especially in remote locations. Have a guy drive from this location to this location. So there's this device that's over there, and they put it on a cage, and it knows if the door went down and it knows if it's rattling. So it's simple, but it's bizarre, right? Because you're like, what? Like, it's just weird, but it makes sense.
Well, and that's one of the things I'm glad you brought up, because it brings out a very important aspect of this entire ecosystem, is that when we think of IoT and industrial IoT, we think of automating processes.
Yeah.
But those processes can be outdoors.
Yeah, anywhere. Anywhere, and the effects can be transformational to how humans move through a building, and so yeah, it's the impact is significant.
Very nice. Now, I'll let you say a little bit from your keynote, because you were talking about you're not just focused on creating solutions, you're focused on generating value, creating a profit.
Yeah, what we are is we're an enabler. We are enabling system integrators, people who currently sell products to businesses today. They are currently selling like Microsoft Office or tablets or phones to businesses, and they want to sell new, exciting products. And what we do is we provide a platform for those individuals to sell products. So if they want to do server room monitoring because they work in the data centers, or if they want to do the temperature monitoring, or if they do tank monitoring for oil and gas. So we want to enable those people who are really good at selling and already have relationships to have a platform where they can make money.
Very nice. So Kevin, before I let you go, do you have any last words for our audience, something you want to leave them with?
I've really enjoyed being here. It's really exciting. I think what's really cool is to see an industry go from nothing to the top, and there's the crossing the chasm part, right, where you got to jump over that hole, otherwise you're going to die. And we've jumped over.
Flying over.
Flying over. And 2019 is the transformational year. 2018 was still people trying to get their head around it, and 19 is actually real businesses spending real money to solve the problems, and it's exciting for us.
I can imagine. That's so cool. I'm really, really pleased you had the time to talk to me today, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.